I'm going to give the floor back to Ben. Recently took a trip down memory lane and connected with someone that you should know, Vusi Thembekwayo, to discuss the importance of injecting capital into a project across the continent.
Thank you for joining me here today to share your thoughts around the challenges that projects are facing when launching, growing, and accessing funding. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. And blessed as well.
Good
Thank
man.
you, Vusi. So you joined us 6 months ago at Smarter Mobility Africa Summit, where you delivered an amazing keynote focused on startup scaling.
Right.
But you also spent, I think, maybe 3 or 4 hours meeting with the companies that were present at the Startup Mobility Awards. I think you had a chance to meet, with over 30 of them, if I'm not mistaken, which is just amazing. And I know how much they loved it. There was a book signing. They got to spend some time where you really delved into what they were doing, the challenges they faced, and the feedback and insights that you got there. We then debriefed a couple of weeks later at your office, and you shared with me that those startups were facing a number of challenges. And it was that feedback that actually has contributed towards a new initiative that we're launching. So I wanted to revisit the feedback that you received from the startups in October, and also see if there's any other challenges or feedback that have come up since with any of the companies that you meet with across Africa.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So first I want to congratulate you on putting together that summit, because when I got the invitation to attend, I was excited to come. And then when I arrived there, I was really, really heartened by what you had put together, not only in terms of the startups you had in the room, but also the large industry players who were there. And more importantly, the government stakeholders who were also there, and how you'd created this campfire, right, in this conference around which all of the various stakeholders could congregate and really discuss mobility. It hadn't dawned on me until that conference that mobility is actually a dignity question. This wasn't something that I'd come to think of. And then when I started engaging with some of the partners that you had at the conference, some of the exhibitors, some of the companies, some of the startups, I then realized that actually a lot of the work that they were doing was solving dignity, right? And that really kind of turned my head around thinking about mobility as a fundamental dignity question. Obviously, after my keynote, had some time to spend with the startups. Anybody who knows me knows that I love spending time with startup and scale-up owners. It fuels me listening to these incredible people who are building, and often just building off faith. They just have this idea around something they're doing, and they're like, I'm going to make this work. And in against all of the contemporary evidence that suggests what they're doing doesn't work, they just keep going. And a lot of the feedback that came out was first around ready available risk funding. There are substantial pools of debt funding in the marketplace, but it's that early stage risk capital, the long capital, that allows these founders and entrepreneurs to think, to scale, to test, to trial, to go from proof of concept, minimum viable product, all the way through to product market fit, and then actually scaling that. There's a dearth in that space around the risk funding to provide for that. The second is around market access, right? And a lot of that market access is attached to the networks and having the right networks of the right people in the right spaces so that they can grow and scale. And then the third is around the technical skill. Building a business is an incredibly technical exercise because you need not only the management expertise, but also the operational expertise in building and scaling a business. And then you need the technical management skill to manage people, manage P&Ls, and a number of people building and starting businesses just have never had the opportunity to develop those skills over time. And what I found interesting around what you had done was that you had created this platform where these entrepreneurs were coming together with some seasoned business players. And I remember saying to us, like, there's a real opportunity here to put together a platform that could operate as some sort of capital platform, VC fund, or something like this, that helps these entrepreneurs take their businesses and put them in front of investors and then take them to next.
That's brilliant. And the feedback that you shared has really helped to shape the new initiative that we'll be sharing in just a minute. But firstly, I just want to thank you for the kind words you said about the event and the platform we've built. I'm glad it came across that way, because that's definitely been the intention. And I think my team and I, we really saw the dignity challenge, but actually the way that you would put it across in your keynote helped to just contextualize exactly that challenge that it's causing. It's definitely a dignity thing, and it happens on many different levels to many as well. So something that we're really keen to solve, as well as the amazing and incredible business opportunities that come from that.
Absolutely. Let me just say before we move on is that I think one of the missing pieces for South Africans is in thinking about social equality and redress is we've thought around how do we disrupt the spatial planning of the government pre-1994, but we hadn't really thought about how do we enable mobility across each of those spaces, right? And so for me, when I saw, I was like, oh, that's actually so smart, right? Because it seems so obvious, but it isn't obvious. And then the solutions to actually do it are even more complex, because they've got to make economic sense on a unit economics basis, and that's not always immediately evident. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you've really touched on one of the key points there. And I think the solution for many years has been build new developments and then connect these with roads and highways. And that's worked up to a certain point, but there's two challenges with that. One is that when you get too many people driving cars, you then end up with way too much congestion and pollution, and it actually works against the people driving those vehicles. And then obviously not everybody can afford a car, or maybe a household can't have more than two cars, or one car. So you end up with someone still moving around without a car. So if you don't have one, you're kind of stuck. So yeah, we've gone down that path of using car as a solution, but it has a ceiling, and cars are amazing, but car dependency is not so good.
And obviously, you've made the point, right? One of the least spoken about challenges, particularly you see it in fast urbanizing spaces. So think here about places such as India, China. I travel there fairly frequently, and you just notice the amount of pollution in the air as a function of the rapid urbanization and the requirements for mobility. And what I love about the way you guys have tackled the problem is you've thought about making mobility smarter. Right. So it's not just about creating mobility, but also creating mobility that is socially conscious, a mobility that doesn't destroy the environment, mobility that does add to society. That's a much harder thing to do. That's a much, much harder thing to do, right? Building infrastructure is one thing. Building infrastructure for the modern day that betters society but doesn't take away from the sustainability of our society, that's a much harder thing to do.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's such an enabler. It really does sit in the middle of the ecosystem. You can build schools and hospitals and create different jobs in different places, but if you don't have the mobility to connect and enable them, then you have some challenges there. So yeah, thanks so much, Vusi, for that feedback. It's been really instrumental in helping my team and I in launch this new initiative, because when you joined us last year, it was the 5th year that we ran the Mobility Startup Awards. It acted as a pitch competition, but we wanted to see how could we take it further. So this week we'll be introducing the new Mobility Investment Projects. It's a year-round platform which offers mobility projects of all shapes and sizes. So startups, SMEs, corporate cities, provinces and national level projects. Exposure to access to funding stakeholders, in addition to mentorship, masterclasses, to ensure that they are investor pitch ready. And a number of them will also have the opportunity to pitch at the Smarter Mobility Africa Summit in October, where we'll just be working so hard to bring as many of the right stakeholders from the funding side together with these projects that are doing amazing things, but obviously need access to that funding.
Love it.
Thank you. And this project has actually been led by Elodie, who you had a chance to meet with last week, and she's been running a similar project for the last year that has showcased over $2 billion of projects at our sister event, the Africa's Green Economy Summit, as well as the Enlit Africa event, which took place last week. So we're targeting at least $1 billion of projects being showcased for this edition. So we've got about 16 weeks to get that together. I'm happy to say, and I don't want to say too much because I know LED is going to be sharing more information on Wednesday, but we've had over 40 projects that have applied to join just in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
So there's obviously a huge demand for it. And we've hardly, begun marketing and tapping into some of the investor and project networks to see which other projects, but we're really happy with where it stands so far.
Love it. I mean, I love the aggregation and obviously for capital providers out there and asset owners out there as well. One of the challenges for the asset managers in the space is that a number of the projects tend to be erratic and it's hard to know the stage of development around those. And what I loved when you guys shared with me what you were doing was, in effect, you were creating a single home for any asset owner, asset allocator out there that has a mobility mandate to come and have a look and see what's there. And because you're doing the full strata from government institutions, nation states, provinces, cities, etc., all the way down to startups in the private sector, it means that if I am an asset allocator or an investor or a pension fund or any of these, and I have a mandate to look at mobility, I now have a single place that I can go to, and I can, understanding my criteria, I can also understand what's out there in the universe. And of course, for the project builders, it means immediately that you can test whether or not there's an appetite and there's going to be capital for your project, which, let me tell you, is a huge deal, right? Because a lot of project builders do a lot of the upfront work on risk. So I think what you guys are doing is actually going to be a game changer. I'm genuinely excited for what you're doing. The mobility as an asset class is new and burgeoning and growing, and building a platform around it is just such an incredible value add. So well done.
Thank you so much. And then lastly, just if there's any advice or requests that you might have for the projects or the funders across Africa regarding the initiative.
I think I'll make kind of two general requests. The first would be to asset allocators, right? For people raising capital, what a lot of people who raise capital don't understand is that institutions that deploy capital manage capital on behalf of asset owners. And often one of the challenges we've had in Africa specifically has been that our asset owners just haven't been moving fast enough to keep up with the pace of society's needs, right? And there is a need here to balance responsible investing, so to ensure that you're not, irresponsible with the allocation of assets and the asset classes that you're putting them into asset classes that are well regulated, etc. There's that part, but also there's a need here to ensure that you play a broader role in benefiting and growing society. And for me, I think to any asset manager, asset allocator out there, pension funds, private equity firms, debt funds, private debt, any who are going to have a look, would be to really just keep an open mind as they look at these projects. And as I often say to some of our partners when we're trying to raise capital, find the reason to say yes, not the reason to say no, right? Because there's a lot of reasons to say no, particularly in Africa. And then I would say to those building projects that it takes long. It really isn't. It's not an easy thing, as you know. It takes really long. There's a lot of work we need to do around educating our clients, educating the ecosystem, educating the market so that they understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. And all I would say to the project builders out there is be patient with yourself and be willing to face rejection, because long before we get substantial allocations and flows of capital, we're going to take a lot of rejection because just a lot of asset owners don't have mandates. And we need to educate them around how to build mandates for mobility as an asset class. There is no doubt in my mind, mobility is a fast-changing category. It's a hugely disruptive category. There's going to be incredible amounts of wealth being generated in this category because the demand is there and the supply hasn't yet met demand, and there's change in how the suppliers are supplying product for that demand. And all of those dynamics just make for such an exciting story that we truly can lead in. So to all and sundry, I would say, let's walk the path together, let's learn together, let's build together, let's develop together.
Absolutely. Vusi Thembekwayo, it's been amazing to speak with you once again. Thanks for your interest in the mobility space, and we'll see you in October.
Well, thank you to both Ben and Vusi for that exclusive insight. I'm not gonna lie, the pressure is on. When I saw the reaction of Vusi on announcing the number of projects, but what a great motivation for us to deliver on that aspect. And Vusi mentioned something very important at the beginning, that mobility is a dignity question. And it really, and I think maybe you as well, and it really made me think about how we can support that basic need with our platform and with our offering. And and Ben mentioned as well that, yes, we had created during the past 5 years, now 6, a successful startup village, and it is time to take it to the next level. And after the success of Ages and Enlit, we know that the project pitch across the full value chain is working. We have experienced the need and the eagerness of the project and investor to connect and engage on that journey together to drive that net zero goals and promoting smoother and smarter mobility in that matter. So indeed, from the startup level, SMEs to city and national infrastructure project, we really recognize the importance of this initiative that will transform the future of mobility for the good and people. We understand that they became a crucial part of that transition. So through VUCA and SMA, we really want to embrace that and provide the necessary support through platform and channels that we've been working on for a number of years now. I would say the main mission of what we're trying to create is really to bridge the gap, and I think Vusi would understand that very well, between the investor ecosystem and the project, because they often operate in silos. And that can lead to, unfortunately, missed opportunities. So through a strong and meticulous project review, consultation with partners and investors, we really want and can present strong projects that will make, I think, a really big impact. And obviously helping funds and investors to find more reason to say yes, just to go back on what Vusi mentioned earlier. So the mobility investment projects are really central, a very central part of our puzzle, I would say, to the vision of SMA, as they really demonstrate the growth potential of the industry. And again, I think it's really important to mention this. It's not just at an event. SMA is not just an event. And it's really important that we emphasize on that aspect. It's a fantastic opportunity for projects, for 30 plus projects at the show to pitch, but we are really committed to support projects globally across the continent with global investors, project owners, entrepreneurs, 365 days a year through digital platforms, mentorship, workshop, regular engagement. SMA is one of the touch points, but there's many more. So we really want to see how we can create momentum through those platforms up to the summit later on in the year. So to emphasize on what Ben said earlier, that put a lot of pressure on my shoulder, but this is what drives us. We did indeed receive 40 plus applications so far. And I can already share that the total pipeline so far is about $140 million. And I think it's, yeah, no pressure. So I'm really confident that with the team, we're going to get to that $1 billion. And it's very important that standard that we want to keep at VUCA is to really bring big tickets and a big portfolio on stage. So watch the space. We'll definitely bring this project. If you have a project that is driving smarter and smoother mobility across the continent, there's still time to apply. So if you're online right now, it's the perfect moment. We have extended our application until the 20th of June. So reach out to us or to the team. And I'm looking forward to see them. So thank you so much again for the opportunity. And I'll now give the floor back to the team.
Thank you so much, Elodie, and congratulations with having more than 40 applications and over $150 million already in the pipeline. That's incredible. Thank you. We look forward to your updates in a few weeks. And as you said, applications are still open for about just over another week. So the team will be sharing the information to make that application in the chats around the different social media platforms, and you'll get that information afterwards. Thanks, Elodie. We'll see you very soon.
Pleasure.
Bye, Elodie.